Okay, BMW 330d E90 N57 engine, 2008 model. The common problem, ABS. It's a common problem, and I think BMW should be shot on their feet basically for that. Let me sort of see if I can get the info. No, go back. No, it's not there. It's that one. Somewhere. Come on. Show me. Check message. And there you go. The famous ABS problem, basically. So what I will be doing is turn the ignition off. Let's go out and show you what's happening. I've got the kit for the repair kit for the pump. Here's the pump. I've already done a lot of work, so I've kept the covers off so it's easier to work with. I have put the strut base back on, only because just to make the car front end a bit stable. Beside that, that's your culprit, the pump here. That's your culprit. Usually this is the error I've got, 5DF1, something like this. I'll put them on the description. It's purely down to this pump itself. So I've marked these white brake fluid pipes, and what I will be doing is, once it's done, I can't start the car obviously, I'll have to bleed the system. I have bought genuine BMW brake fluids, so let's crack on with taking these off. But I'm going to put a lot of tissue underneath and round, just so that if there is a spillage, I don't have to worry about that. Now, first thing first is to, before doing so, is to remove this connector by pulling this little lever, and there's 10 milli I think. There's one there, one at the behind there, and one I believe somewhere here, just behind underneath there, and that will lift the pump. But obviously you've got to release this and put the cap on, just to prevent the brake fluid from spilling all over the engine bay. So let's get these sorted. I'm sorry I can't sort of take the video while I'm doing this. I'll have to sort of do my best anyway. Alright, speak to you shortly, bye. Right people, ABS pump is out. It's in the house at the moment. Just going to give it a quick clean and just cover up this contact, just in case it decides to rain tomorrow. I'm going to take my time preparing the pump. There's no rush in putting that back in, absolutely no rush. So I will be taking my time with it. I'll keep you guys posted. Okay, here is the pump, the ABS pump part number, the famous part number. There we go. Okay, these retail for a silly amount of money. I've blanked these holes off with these cap what I bought off eBay. They're part of the kit. I've dropped one through the engine bay, unfortunately, because of the brake fluid being slippy. Here's the bearing. Here's the brushes, which are carbon brushes, and these are the little drilling bits, which I will leave a link to the description, so you can get them off eBay. And I'll be chopping these bits off on the four corner, and hope for the best. So yep, that's all. That's the orientation of the pump. Yep, okay, superb. So let's crack on with it. I've masked it around just so that I'm not putting anything inside those holes for the ABS. This is the culprit. I'll be using these little things, drill bits, basically to try and cut off the edges, and then I'll be drilling with very small, probably about 3 mil. I've got all the screws and the plates in place, and to try and sort of put the unit back on. So let's crack on with this. I'll probably be using a bench drill here to try and sort of take this off, so I'm not sort of cutting into areas where it's not necessary. And particularly when I'm drilling, I will definitely use that. So I have a hand tool and this, but I'll decide which is to go for. These comes in a pack of 10. All right. So let me sort of take these off, and I'll get back to you. Right, the bench drill wasn't, the drill bit actually I should say, it wasn't long enough for me to utilise that to try and grind these edges off to release the motor. So what I'm going to do is I'll be using this hand tool, what I've been using for very precise work, and hope for the best that this doesn't take me all days to chop these edges off. So yep, here we are. I'll keep you posted what's going on. Let me just chop them off. Let's make a first attempt on this. Stop the cameraman. Una torchlight, can you grab that torchlight for me, please? Okay, I think we're good to go. We'll last one. See how we go on with this. Nope. Just slightly skim it away. So I'm going to have a look under the microscope just to see how the thing is. Let me turn this off. Just bear with me. Edges have been taken off. Now I'm going to get a small thin screwdriver and see if I can start chiseling and getting into the side of the pump. Probably have to knock it with a tap it with something just so that I can gain access to the side of the unit. Just don't want to break the seal. There is a rubber gasket somewhere here, so we've just got to be careful with that. Just want to sort of is it moving up? Is it, or is it not? Right, no it's not. Okay, let me find an alternative way of taking this out. So I'll be back very shortly. Stop and load for the pause. Right, as you can see here, I've taken the pump out. I've gone as far as I can with these little studs that holds the, see if I can zoom in a little bit better. Yep, there you go. That's as far as I can go. It wasn't pulling out, so what I've done is I've got myself a very fine tip screwdriver here. Very, very fine, and I think I've no, I've not broken it, that's fine. A strong screwdriver, there you go, very fine. I've put it underneath and nice and gently I've knocked it with the hammer. Be very careful that you don't want to be damaging the unit. And that's it really, it's snapped out. So I've done this side and then turned it around and did the other side and pulled it apart, and here we go, the pump is out. This is the bearing here. Bearing seems to be absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover this with something just so that nothing gets on it basically, and leave it to the side while I focus on fixing this. What I will be doing is I'll be drilling a hole just above this stud here. This is what's holding this assembly of the pump. There's one on either side. There's one on this side and one on that side. I'll drill just about up here with the bench drill. That's when this becomes useful, and I'll have to measure the depth of the actual metal. So the metal depth is pretty much this. What's here is just about that. So I would imagine that would be roughly about 1 mil. So I've got a one of those gauge that'll measure it, and then I'll set the drill bit so that I'm not drilling through, because otherwise I won't be able to sort of put a clip in to push those. I won't be able to put a metal bit or a wire to push those clips back so that it releases this bit actually. So let's crack on with this now. Just a little tip: when you do drill through the unit, just make sure it's in underneath this, because there's other pegs here as well. There's one there with no 2 dots here, and there is one on the opposite side as well again. So it's not this bit, it's where these 2 little dots are. That's where the clips are basically holding this the housing basically. So I've done one side, I'm going to crack on with the other side now. I'll be drilling a hole. I've measured the gap and the thickness of the metal, so hopefully that shouldn't go through. So I'm just going to pass this on to my little baby, let her sort of focus on that, and I will focus on the drilling side of it. Okay, so right, I've made a clip out of metal wire. This is soft. I could have done with something a little bit stiffer. It's from a coat rail, basically, coat hanger I should say. So what I'm doing is I'm using this strap to tighten so that enough press goes on either side, and then eventually I'll pull this out. So I've got nobody to give me a hand, so I'm gonna have to sort of do this and then show you how it's once it's open basically. One other thing, I've left a little flat here the way, just so that this, as I'm tightening this strap, don't wiggle around or fall off or go the other, or go this way basically. So that's the reason why there's a bit of a angle there basically on both ends. Right, I've been very close. The idea with the strap was a fail. What I had to do is I had to get 2 screws like this, put them on either side, like that for example. I'll show you, like this, okay, and then push it with something so you're not hurting your fingers basically. Press it down, facing like this, both sides, 2 screws in, get something to sort of support, give your finger a bit of a relief, press it in, and then get a second person to sort of whoosh, pull it out basically. And that would be the end of it. Yes, I have slightly bent the clips. That's okay. I've applied heat and I've taken them back out again, and I'm just letting this super glue to sort of dry out, and that'll strengthen those clips basically. And right, coming on to this, let me show you the measurements, exact measurements as to how far. I think I've been very close with this. If you look at the area where I've drilled, I should have been a bit lower, so more towards, let me grab a tweezer, more towards there, maybe possibly there, rather than higher up, so I can grab, what you want to do is you want to press onto this to release the pump. This is where you want to press down, and that'll release it basically. So you don't necessarily have to drill drill higher. It has to be, it'd be better, sorry, I should say, it's moving about, sorry. It'd be better if you can get the drill bit here. So I would probably say, next time if I was to do something like this, it'll probably say just about just above here, basically. And in terms of measurements, I mean, to be honest, I've probably wasted my time here. I'd probably just, no, I won't even use this potentiometer. Right, okay, just probably 2 to 3 mil. No, not 2 to, sorry, about 1 millimeter. Let me grab, where's my tweezers gone? So from there, about 1 millimeter. So probably there, just so, I'll say about 2mm, just so that you're not breaking this through, because you've got to reclip the pump back in. So I'd probably say on the safe side, just about on the verge of this, but you're not going over this basically. So probably a bit lower. Otherwise, this is okay. And the distance between that and that, what I've already drilled, I'll show you now. I think it might be worthwhile measuring that, just so that you understand. So I'll measure it from the top of this to the center of that hole what I've created. So bloody nuisance when you're trying to do recording and the thingy basically together. Yep, and what does he read? Just about, say about 4.5 mil, something like that. 4.5mm would be perfect, that. So yeah, the motor's out. Let me show you what's going on. Stupid bloody... I'd shoot BMW on their foot basically for having to develop something like this basically. Absolutely, because this is a common problem, common fault with this. All the E90s and a lot of the BMWs. Let me show you something, which you will find it quite fascinating. Let me just find where the brushes are. Okay, let me get a nice view where you can see what's going on. Right, okay, so let's show you what's going on. Come on. Stop messing around. Okay, so see where the brushes are. Look, it's not making any contact. Even if I pull the thingy away, it's not making any contact. And the same thing applies on the other side as well. Let me find the other one. Oh, there it is, the other one. There it is, okay. You know what, I need to sort of hold this still. Look, see the gap? As I'm sort of creating the gap myself, the brushes should make contact. And stupidly enough, this microscope, I'm going to really winding me up this now. Look, it's not moving. It's not sort of springing onto the collar basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it an electrical clean with an electrical contact cleaner, free them up. I'm deciding whether to replace them or keep them on. More than likely I'm going to try and replace them because of the common issue. In fact, I am going to replace them with the carbon ones. So yep, just bear with me. Right, finally the bearing's off. I have decided that to take it off because these brushes are completely seized, or it was. Look, that one on the left. I'm not going to take the risk of leaving them in, because the chances are that after all that time and effort that they will start seizing up again. So I'm not going to trust them at all basically. So I'll be replacing them with the brushes, carbon brushes what I've got over there, here. Then that's what I will be replacing it with. So because it's an awful lot of work going through all that basically. It's absolutely immense amount of work. Okay, so that's that. There's a bearing also here, Dunlop bearing, which comes in the kit. I'll leave the link below. It's an eBay guy that sells them. And I'll probably not bother reusing this one. Bearing seems to be fine. Suppose I can use it. I can't see that being a problem, because I've not broken it. But let's see which, if it's still smooth, I'll probably just utilize it. If not, I'll use the other one. Other than that, I've got sandpaper P1200. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean these contacts while I'm at it, and then sort of start removing these and replace them. Look, still seized. That one just freed up because of the impact, but that one still even moving. I'm probably going to have to pinch it for it to move. Let's see what happens. See, the problem is I don't want to damage the spring. If I damage the spring, I could be in some... Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's released it. So I've released it now, but it's still, look, stiff. Very stiff. I think it's just that the heat has expanded those brushes. But yeah, there's plenty of life on them, but unfortunately it's kaput. And stupidly enough, what I've done is I've broken these little clips as I was smacking it with a hammer. I'll try and put them on. If not, more than likely I'm not going. In fact, more than likely I'm not going to bother with them. I'm just going to put a bit of silicone round and stick it back in. I can't see that coming out while it's in the pump itself, but I'll do what I think is necessary anyway. But that's that. It's just pity that I've broken them. That it just defeats the purpose of going through all the drilling and all that basically. Well, then again, kind of not, because if you start praying this out and you start breaking these edges, then that's even far worse than breaking these clips. But we'll see. Let's see what happens anyway. I'll keep you guys posted. Right, quick update. The new brushes are in. I'm just keeping this to sort of keep them inside the spring, so I'm not damaging the contacts here at the end. So now what I'll be doing is I'll be soldering these with a high temperature solder basically. I'm thinking whether to just stick to the leaded. Probably end up with soldering it with a high temperature solder basically, so just so that the joints don't come off by overheating, which very unlikely that this pump will generate an immense amount of heat to begin with, because it's rare. I don't know, it's rarely on, if I'm not mistaken. My understanding is that the master cylinder takes care of it, but the ABS pump only kicks in when it's needed to basically. So but I'm not a mechanic, I might be wrong. So yeah, let's crack on with this. Okay, right people, the good news is the brushes are back on. I've soldered them here. I've left the wire just a little bit long, but obviously it's not going to touch the motor once the assembly is put back on. So I've made sure that it's not touching it, definitely basically, and or the housing either. So there you go. That's how much it's coming out as. I've used high temperature solder wire. You don't have to do that, but I've done it myself. Very high temperature. I think it's about 340 something through 350 degrees Celsius. You don't have to do that. You can just get away with just using a decent leaded solder, not the lead-free crap, basically. So yep, that's that. I'm going to sort of start reassembling the pump. Right, guys. Final stage of the assembly. I didn't put the original bearing back on. I put the Dunlop one that came with the kit. Dunlop, I should say. You can just about read it somewhere here. There we go. Somewhere. Come on. Stop messing around. It's somewhere there. It does say Dunlop. Oh, there it is. There you go. You can just about see in the top. Okay. So I've used the bearing that came with the kit. The mistake I've made is that always take a measurement of the shaft, basically. So for example, from the top of the bearing, sorry guys. Right, okay, I've come to the last bit of reassembling this motor. One of the mistakes I've made, I should have taken the measurements of this from there to here, because when I was battering from there to there, because when I was battering the bearing out, although I've bought a bearing kit, it hasn't helped, because you can't put the kit behind it or anywhere else to try and pull this out. The kit arm, the puller has to go behind the bearing, and then the screw thing is go on the top, so it pulls it out. But you can't do that on this. So the way around that was actually holding it and just beating it out with the hammer. Now, while in the process of doing that, what happened is the shaft moved from there and it pulled itself further down. I did put a marker on with a green marker, but the marker was so shit that it actually sort of the marking as I was working, the marking is actually blemished. When you do batter this, try and put something on the top, just so that you're not chipping the top away. I may have chipped ever so slight because I didn't put anything on the top, but as I was doing the back one, I put a metal piece in between. So for example, there you go, you can see that that's taken all the beating, but the shaft itself is absolutely unmarked. Okay, so that's what I should have been done. Now the stage of putting it back together and see what happens basically. I'm assuming that the distance, from what I can recall, the distance was the bearings center was just about in line with this, as you can see. That's what I was under the impression when I was inspecting it basically. So we'll see, you know, and let's put the motor back together and see how it functions. Okay, just bear with me. Right, here's the motor. Let's see how successful I was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke that in there, just short it out and see what happens. There we go, absolutely awesome. "12 volt set at, it's drawing 3.4. amp or 3.5 amp. Nice and smooth, absolutely freaking awesome. Alright, so successful repair. This is seated quite nicely, so if you do get a problem where you can't measure up what the distance is, just go off the bottom of that. So let me show you what's going on. And I'm sorry, my hands are always on the way of sort of doing the repairs, and this stupid phone won't zoom in. Just about there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more, so I can give you a clear view. Yep, so you get the idea that the center of the bearing is lined with just about the lowest part of this shaft, basically, as it sort of paves out a little bit. Okay, so that's that. In terms of these holes, what I've created, I've put some tread lock on, a red tread lock, and put some screws in. That'll be sealed. There's absolutely no chance of any moisture or anything going through. It's because I've used the Loctite. I've used black screws just to camouflage these hole, basically. Unfortunately, I've broken the clips. No matter, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm not too sort of fussed about that. And let's sort of put this back in the the ABS unit, and it'll be going back on the car sometime tomorrow. But I will be giving it a run for about a few minutes, just to sort of let the carbon brushes break in, and we'll take it from there. Okay. Right, it's on the bench now. I'm going to sort of drill a hole where those dots are, 4 hole, and then I'll be bolting these with some custom made brackets that I'll be chopping and blending it into this, basically. So what it will look like is this copper, but quite a thick copper, and that should do the trick, basically. So I'll keep you guys posted again. I'm sorry, there's nobody around to sort of hold the camera and everything, so I'm just gonna have to sort of do them and then talk about it. So yeah, just bear with me. Right, okay, I've bench drill back on. I'm going to be drilling small holes there, and I'll be making some custom brackets to try and hold on the pump. So something like this. Okay, that's all I can find, copper, unfortunately, so I'll be using something like this to hold it down. The bolt I'll be using is from what I do for the PC repairs, these. But now what I've got to do is set the height, so that I'm not drilling through the entire unit, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that this should do the job, basically. Okay, just bear with me. Right, I'll be drilling. I'll just sort of demonstrate what I'm doing with these these drill thingy. Right, okay, I'm going to just pause that music right here on the background before I get a YouTube strike. Okay, so it's very precisely done. Just want to make sure that it doesn't go below this, so I've already done that measurements, and let's sort of go for it. Here we go. It's nice and easy, no rush. Zoom in. Zoom in there. Done. I've done all the rest of the 3. Just thought that I'll demonstrate this this one with you, and I haven't certainly gone through anything. So yep, that's all. Right, okay. After a bit of battle, I just wanted to get something done properly, and these are the little brackets that I'll be sitting on here. Yes, I have made a cock and balls out of one of the hole, that one. Okay, but not to worry. The screw will go in, and I will be putting some what's the tiger seal on the edges, so that'll toughen it up, What happened was, as I was creating a thread, just like I did with the others, this stupid bastard screw decided to snap off from the tip, so I had to re-drill it carefully. So yeah, just about, you can see towards the left, it's a new thread. That bit's a bit of a bombshell, but I'm going to sort of sort that out. I'll sort it out anyway. That's fine, not to worry. But this is what I mean. These little studs. There you go. It'll sit like this, and I think this is as just as it's going to get. There we go. Very nicely lined up. Superb. Now the motor. Here's the beast that's got to go in. Okay. So I'll keep you guys posted once I've put the motor in. It has been tested, and the motor's working fine. I might as well just do one more quick test while you guys are on the phone. Sorry, on the channel. Let me. Okay, so treat this as ground. How many amp am I running on current? Yep, 5.2. Because this stupid thing just causes a surge. Hope you're getting this. Yeah, satisfied? Excellent. So yeah, let me put this back together, and I'll speak to you shortly. Hey people, the ABS pump is now repaired, fully assembled. It's due to be put back in the car, and what I would like to go through is some of the common mistakes that I've made, just so that you don't repeat this. Quite obviously, as I have expressed, that I'm not a mechanical engineer, and this was worth a try. It has been successful. It's just pity that on this end I've had to use a Quick Weld Pro paste to try and assemble the corner, basically, purely because of the fact that as I was drilling, once I've drilled the aluminium up to the certain depth here, so you do not want to go below this line. So the safest option is probably just stay half a mil above this line, because you don't know what's underneath it, underneath this, basically. So I've been using a bench drill to do that. Once I was trying to create, once I've done the drilling and tried to create the thread, what happened is the screw that I was using to create the thread has actually snapped and stuck in there. And it was a steel screw, and I could not believe that it snapped. That actually just put the whole repair out of context, basically. So I've been at it since yesterday evening to try and recreate the hole without going too deep, and not been very successful. Otherwise I would have put a solid steel screw like this, basically. And I've done it on the all three sides except this one. There is no other way around it, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that the strength of them three will hold the pump intact. And the Weld Pro is okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. And I mean, the motor is not creating an immense amount of vibration, and it's not on all the time as well, bearing in mind. It's only when the traction control's coming on is I believe where the pump is going to kick in and try and sort of balance the or stop the car, or balance the car if the car's slipping. So that's that. I did sort of mask everything because I didn't want any debris, anything going through these holes. It's very, very, very important you do that. Basically the pump is ready. I've tested the pump. One other thing I did here was the hole what I created to press down on those clips. Basically those have been I've put screws with red Loctite, so it's permanently sealed. Nothing's going through, no moisture's going through them. One other thing I'd like to explain is, while I was working on the pump itself, it's absolutely crucial that you measure the rod, the distance between the bearing and the rod. The one on the front top and one on the bottom bearing is no, not the bearing. The bearing's on the top, basically here. That's where the bearing is. At the back is where there is a little housing, and you've got the motor rod, basically. But as I was hammering, I actually lost the distance, basically. So it's always a good idea to measure the distance of the rod, basically. So for typical example, let me find a metal. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so just pretend for a moment. Let me get this bearing out. Just pretend for a moment that this is where the bearing sits. Okay. This is where the bearing sits, okay? This is where the coil and the rest of the thing, and the bottom is this. This is your front, basically. So what I'm saying is that measure the distance between the tip of this rod up to there. It's very crucial, that up to there. Measure that distance, and then also the winding. After the winding, you've got the rod. Measure the distance between the end of that winding to the distance here, because as you're hammering to try and take the thingy out, the bearing out, to access the brushes, you are going to lose those distances. And when you do lose those distances, unfortunately, if you don't know what you're doing, you will bump into a lot of mess, basically. So please do pay attention to that. Anyway, I'm going to get it back into the car. And then once our bleeding process is done, there's plenty of videos on the YouTube showing how to bleed the system. I will be using INPA, and I'll start from the furthest wheel away, which is going to be, it's a right-hand drive in the UK, so it would be the rear left-hand side, which is the furthest, and then it'll be the rear right-hand side, which is the driver's side, then it'll be the front left-hand side, and then it'll be the front driver's side, which is where the pump is actually located. Have fun, stay safe, and I'll speak to you very shortly. My head's under the car. I don't think that's the best thing to do, but it's jacked up and it's sitting on axle stand. I'm going through the bleeding process once I've installed the ABS system unit back on, and it's an absolute must that you have to do that. There's plenty of internet videos on how to go about doing that, because it was a one-man job. I could not have the time to sort of go through that, explaining in bit by bit, but once I need to bleed the system again, I will show you. Right, success story. There's no ABS error on the dash now after repairing the pump. The problem has now been solved. Yes, obviously I did get an indicator with the brake fluid low. That's perfectly understandable. What I've used here is the BMW's dedicated software. Gone on to Shift and F2 for the BMW E90. And then I'll scroll over to the errors. There is one pending error for the rear light level sensor. That needs to be looked at. I will look at it after. What we're on now, read F4, and then read errors. And with all the list of work I've had, absolutely nothing pending. Absolutely nothing. This rear light sensor, there it is. Okay. There we go. That's what's, so it's FRM 9CB4. That's the only thing that's pending on the vehicle. I will sort of summarize what's been done on the vehicle at the moment. First thing first is the auxiliary pump for the heater. That's been repaired. These are non-recyclable, refurbishable unit, but luckily, I've managed to sort it out with a new set of carbon brushes. Obviously, every time you do open pump and coolant pipe, you have to bleed the system. Okay, next job was the glow plug controller module. That was done. After that, the glow plugs were replaced properly with proper ceramic paste around the thread so that it doesn't seize up should one fail. I intend to keep the car for a long time, so that's that. The intake engine breather valve, or the intake breather valve, or crankcase breather valve, whatever you want to call it, that's been replaced with a brand new one. Let's just try and swell flaps have been removed and blanked off. The ABS pump has been repaired, and the filter, I've replaced it with a K&N filter. What I'm going to do tomorrow is start bleeding the system, basically, with the help of INPA. And I think once I've done that, I will focus on this error. Okay, and hopefully I can. I believe it's on the rear left-hand passenger side. This is a UK right-hand drive vehicle, so it'll be on the left-hand passenger side somewhere. But I will have to start off bleeding the system from the furthest wheel away from the master cylinder, and that would be the rear passenger side, basically. Then it'll be the rear driver side, then it'll be the front passenger side, and then it'll be the driver side itself. That's because the master cylinder is situated in just near the driver side on the front. Absolutely amazed. First of all, is thank you very much for this software to BMW and everybody else. you know, whoever the developers were. Absolutely cracking software. I can put my mind to rest now, because the kids, I do the school run with this car, and I need it. It's an absolute essential. And with the help of the software, I've managed to locate all the problems and cured all the problems, and that's that. On the dash, I'll show you there's nothing sort of, let's go into the iDrive and see under service info, service. Yeah, the brake fluid, that's absolutely fine. Check message, no fault. Okay, absolutely stunned. This has been a great success. I can enjoy my cruise control, the dynamic traction control, and the ABS as put ABS as and when is needed. And yep, that's all really. So as I said, I've cleared all the faults. There's nothing coming up new apart from the one that's pending. Yep, so that's all the best. Stay safe, and you know, I'll speak to you guys on another video. Bye for now.